I'm Susan Murphy. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, the death of Antonin Scalia leaves a vacancy on the Supreme Court, and the rhetoric ramps up about who gets to appoint his replacements. San Diego got a little taste of summer in February. Record high temperatures drive many to the beach this President's Day.
The suicide's easy. You just get them up there and throw them off.
Suicide, murder, betrayal. Opera season is in full swing with San Diego's opera's Tosca. We go behind the scenes of Puccini's drama. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. What happens next for the U.S. Supreme Court? 2 days after the death of Associate Justice Antonin Scalia, names of potential successors are starting to come up, including several from California. One of them, Kamala Harris, the state's Attorney General. She is currently running for U.S. Senate. Other suggestions include 2 associate justices of the state Supreme Court. Mariano Florentino Cuellar was born in Mexico and has served on California's High Court for a year. And Associate Justice Goodwin Liu was appointed by Governor Jerry Brown in 2011. Whomever the president nominates may face a long wait. Some Republican leaders have argued a nomination should wait until next year after the election. President Barack Obama says he will come up with a nomination in due time. Today, constitutional law professor Glenn Smith told KPBS that while the Constitution requires a nomination by the president, it's not specific.
The Constitution speaks in very broad language. And it doesn't answer these kinds of, definitively, these kinds of modern questions about, in light of a totally changed and somewhat poisonous political atmosphere, what's the right answer? It's something that we all have to work out. But so sometimes there's the question of what the Constitution requires, but then there's also the question of what a decent respect for our government obligates, at least morally, our political officials to do.
Scalia's sudden death in Texas on Saturday has raised questions about his health. The judge who decided no autopsy was needed says she talked with Scalia's doctor, who said the justice had a history of heart trouble and high blood pressure. Unlike presidents, Supreme Court justices don't provide regular health disclosures to the public. PBS NewsHour will have much more on the death of Antonin Scalia coming up at 7. The president is in Southern California today, meeting with Southeastern Asian leaders for 2 days of talks on economic and security issues. It's the first U.S. gathering for the 10 members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which includes Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, among others. The summit was conceived as part of the mission to raise the U.S. profile and help set the agenda in the fast-growing Asia-Pacific. Governor Jerry Brown is planning a November ballot measure to reverse a law he first signed into being 40 years ago. It was a tough-on-crime sentencing law. Now he's proposing a measure that would allow nonviolent inmates to earn credits for good behavior to get a chance for earlier parole. It would also allow judges rather than prosecutors to decide when juveniles should be tried as adults. KQED senior editor Scott Schaefer talked with the governor at his office in San Francisco about this and other issues.
This is kind of a one-note system now. Time in a cell. Time in the cell. Now, what we need is a more sophisticated system of restorative justice, drug treatment, mental health treatment, supervision, electronic monitoring, different ways of restructuring the thinking and reintegrating the offender, because they all come back anyway. And when you put them in a cell and you give them no incentive for them to take charge of their lives by getting an earlier freedom date, then they join gangs, they use dope, they get into violence, and there's no way to control the prisons because there's no internal incentive. And what my measure does, it brings back the ability of a convict to say, okay, if I play by the rules, if I get out of the gang, I can actually get home earlier. And then you add to that, and if I take high school training, if I take vocational training, if I do college, if I do mental health, drug treatment, all that helps. So what we're doing is building a system of internal incentives to get people to be better citizens when they inevitably come back to society.
One of the other things this ballot measure would do is when juveniles are involved, it would take the decision whether to try them as adults or juveniles away from the prosecutors and give it to the judges. Why do you think that's important?
Because the job of a prosecutor is to prosecute, not judge. The job of a judge is to judge. And whether someone 14, 15, 16, or 17 should be tried in the juvenile court under that system or transferred to the adult court is primarily a judicial question. Let the judges decide.
You have appointed 300 or so judges in California. And one thing I've noticed is that you've appointed more people who were either public defenders or had defense attorney experience, much more so than any recent governor. Why? And how do you think that's going to change the calculation and recalibrate?
First of all, we never had a tradition that said to be a judge, you have to be a district attorney. That developed probably in the 90s. The judges are supposed to be independent. You want judges who have commercial background, you want judges who have prosecutorial background, but city attorney, you want a diversity. And I've tried to look at the merits, and I think most people would say that the quality of the bench and the judiciary is definitely very good in the numbers that I've appointed.
How concerned are you that the DA's Association has already come out against this? Yeah. Crime victims groups will be against it. How concerned are you about this being, and you being, portrayed as soft on crime?
Well, that is the line. This is an old story. My father ran for Attorney General. His Republican opponent took out a full-page ad in the San Francisco Examiner with a hypodermic needle, trying to portray my father as the friend of dope dealers. And that was in the 50s. So, yeah, there will be campaigns, but I've been around a lot of campaigns, and I think people want fairness. They want public safety. So I think you're going to hear a lot of hyperbolic rhetoric. But the fact is that the provision that I'm proposing is essentially what we're already doing under the three-judge panel, for which nobody's really complained. And secondly, it is a modest adjustment in that it gives incentives after serving a full term in people that can demonstrate they're ready to go back into society. Doesn't mean they will. Siran is eligible for parole, but he's not getting out. He was denied just this last week. The same of other people. What you want to do is provide the incentives for real transformation.
Women in California will soon be able to get birth control pills without a prescription. From our North County Bureau, KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the law is expected to go into effect in April.
When the law is enacted, California will become the third state to allow pharmacists to dispense birth control without a prescription. They'll be able to furnish hormonal patches, pills, and vaginal rings. Women will have to answer a brief screening questionnaire before they get birth control. It's designed to reveal any health concerns that might prompt a referral to a doctor. Supporters say the law will increase access to contraceptives and reduce unwanted pregnancies. But the law could have unintended consequences. There's concern that not requiring a doctor's visit will mean fewer women will get screened for sexually transmitted diseases. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
Pope Francis continues his travels through Mexico, celebrating Mass for Mexican Indians in the southern state of Chiapas. On Wednesday, he will visit the border city of Juárez. San Diego priest Neil Jose Wilkinson will attend that Mass. He says the Pope has a message for Mexicans and Americans about migrants.
These are human beings. These are our brothers and sisters who are in desperate situations. And if we are faithful followers of Christ, we'll pay attention to them and we will seek justice for them.
Wilkinson says in the U.S. it's easy to ignore the plight of the poor. Fronteras reporter Angela Kocherga tells us many in Juárez hope the Pope's Mass will bring healing to the region.
The lines are steady and hopes high at this kiosk where the faithful leave messages for Pope Francis. Kenya Martinez is thankful the Pope is coming here to Juárez. A few years ago, people would have rushed home before dark. Now there's dancing again at dusk. This border city is recovering after years of some of the worst drug violence in Mexico. Lupita Davila hopes the Pope will urge authorities and the public not to let down their guard, now that murders are down in Juárez. She helped start a nonprofit organization for children and teens who survived the bloodshed. Scrawled on this board, a week of school visits, including psychologists, violence prevention workshops, and football clinics.
Es muy importante el ponerle atención a esta generación de niños víctimas.
Davila says it's important to focus attention on this generation. She, like many of the kids she helps, lost a loved one. January marked the 6th anniversary of her son Rodrigo's murder. He's among 15 people killed during a birthday party massacre in Juárez in 2010.
Defendiendo a uno siempre por los hijos. Y ya.
Across the border on the U.S. side, another mother mourns. Mari Centeno says violence forced her to flee El Salvador after maras or gangs killed the father of her 3 children and threatened her 14-year-old son. Her daughter Roxana remembers the risky ride through Mexico on the train known as
La Bestia?
La Bestia, the Beast. The family has found temporary shelter along with other migrants and refugees at Annunciation House in El Paso. A select group of special guests that includes some migrants and refugees will be allowed to come right here, where they'll be able to see the giant stage where Pope Francis will hold an open-air mass. The Pope is also expected to use that specially built ramp to come as close as he can to the border, where he's expected to bless those standing on the U.S. side.
His coming here is filled with tremendous hope that he will address the needs and the reality that the immigrant, the refugee face in both Mexico and the United States, that there will be a calling to conscience to the people of both countries.
The faith of many in this border region has been tested. High above on Mount Cristo Rey, a massive cross towers over what looks like one community. In Juárez, I'm Angela Kocherga.
Summer in February. Unseasonable warm temperatures soared to record-breaking heights across San Diego County. The picture-perfect weather made for a great day at the beach. The President's Day holiday at Mission Beach looked more like the 4th of July. Hundreds of people loaded with boogie boards, towels, and sunscreen flocked to the shorelines to enjoy the winter warmth. For Ronaldo Geske and his family, it was their second trip to the beach in 2 days.
Weather's great. Nowhere else gets this weather. Nowhere. That's why we live here.
The 80-degree temperatures were perfect for taking a dip in the ocean. For others, it was all about the sandcastles.
The pink one is going to be for me, and this one is good.
Along with the fresh ocean breezes, a delicious aroma of barbecue filled the air.
But it's absolutely beautiful here. Wonderful weather.
Jacqueline Barrientos, on a business trip from Washington, D.C., was feeling a little beachgoer's guilt.
Oh my gosh, so I've already talked to my husband. He's got 2 kids home from school, and it's cold, and it's snowing, and I'm here in this beautiful sunny weather. So he's like, don't call me again.
Ha Mai and Nikki Ho moved to San Diego 2 weeks ago from Texas. They say they're here to stay.
Perfect to me. Go out for a run, go to the beach, hang out on the ocean. It's beautiful today.
Today's temperatures did set some records. The high temperature hit 89 degrees in Escondido and Vista, 79 at Oceanside Harbor. More beach weather is expected tomorrow, but KPBS weather reporter Steph Davis says there is a chance of showers later in the week.
Sure was hot out there across the area today. Temperatures pushing the record, and that heat will remain as we head over the next day or so. Looking at our satellite and radar, pretty quiet conditions here all across the southwestern United States. Just some clouds building in, but much of California remaining nice, sunny, and dry. And we're looking at clear skies here closer to home across the San Diego area, thanks to a ridge of high pressure in control. Heading into tonight, we can expect clear skies in Borrego Springs. Your overnight low is 48 degrees. Temperatures in Mount Laguna back to 42. 50 tonight in Ramona, 55 in Alpine, 47 and clear tonight in Oceanside, and a quiet and mild night in San Diego. Your overnight low, 58 degrees. Looking ahead to Tuesday, going to feel like springtime across much of the southwestern United States. Persistent ridge of high pressure in control, allowing for dry and mild conditions. Record highs will be challenged across the southern parts of the region, and that's the case here in San Diego as well. In fact, in the city itself, we're on track to break the record as we head throughout the day on Tuesday. Here's a look at your 5-day outlook for the coast. Plenty of sunshine and very warm on Tuesday with highs in the low 80s. A little bit cooler, but still mild on Wednesday. Partial sunshine with a high of 74. Wednesday night and into Thursday, we're looking at the arrival of some clouds and showers, and that'll cool things off back into the 60s. Inland, plenty of sunshine Tuesday, high 82, and again in San Diego itself, that is on track to break the record. We're rolling about 15 to 20 degrees above average for this time of year. Partly sunny and 73 Wednesday. Same deal here Wednesday night and into Thursday. Clouds and showers possible, and that wet weather will cool things off. Temperatures much more seasonable for the second half of the week inland, with daytime highs climbing to the mid to upper 60s. Sunny and warm in the mountains on Tuesday with a high of 68, partly sunny and 64 on Wednesday. Looking at the arrival of those clouds and showers Wednesday night and into your Thursday, and that'll cool things off back into the 50s Friday and into the day on Saturday. Looking at your 5-day outlook for the deserts, it is hot on Tuesday. 88 is the daytime high. Partly sunny and remaining warm on Wednesday, and then temperatures trending down as we head into Thursday with highs in the mid 70s, though we'll work right back up into the 80s as we look ahead to the first half of the weekend. Steph Davis, KPBS News.
4 months after a teen was killed in a hit and run, the city of San Diego is taking major steps to improve safety on 54th Street in the Mid-City area. Right now, little more than a drainage gutter separates cars from pedestrians on the stretch of road where Jonathan Cortez was killed in October. But city engineers are proposing to reconfigure the street to squeeze in a buffered bike lane, a painted median which separates cyclists from cars.
They're really quick, affordable ways to kind of transform and repurpose the street. So we're happy to see them do that. And we're happy that they're going to implement that type of improvement here in the near term so we don't have to wait 5 or 10 years.
There's no timeline for the work yet, but the city says it's a high priority. Meanwhile, police have forwarded the hit and run case to the district attorney. The average gas price in San Diego is down to $2.52. That's the average for a gallon of self-serve regular in the county. According to figures from AAA, the price has been falling steadily for more than a month, dropping about 54 cents overall during that time. The Reuben H. Fleet Science Center is offering more science education. KPBS education reporter Matt Bowler says it's taking over 2 key programs.
A little girl laughs as she zooms down a slide made entirely of packing tape. It's science and it's education. Ellen Penske of the San Diego Science Alliance executive director says teaming up with the Reuben H. fleet is all part of their mission to promote science.
We will have the infrastructure and some added oomph to get out into the community, to make science an everyday occurrence, not just coming to a science center, not just participating in one program or two programs, but basically making it an everyday occurrence in people's lives.
The Fleet Center is taking over 2 San Diego Science Alliance programs, Better Education for Women in Science and Engineering, and the annual High-Tech Fair. Steve Snyder, CEO of the Science Center, says they're excited about taking over the 2 big programs.
But science is beautiful, science is exciting, science is thrilling and magical in so many ways, and the more we can instill that and nurture that in kids, the more likely they're going to be science-literate adults and be able to take a real role in our future.
A future made possible by programs that bring both learning and joy to children. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, a look at widespread distrust among many in Baltimore for that city's famous hospitals. That's Monday on the PBS News Hour.
San Diego Opera leaps into action with an acclaimed production of Tosca. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando takes us backstage for a look at the opera's famous ending.
Love, villainy, murder. Yep, it's opera season, and passions are running high in San Diego Opera's production of Tosca. Puccini's opera sometimes gets dismissed as a melodrama about a fiery black-eyed diva, her idealistic lover, and a sadistic police chief.
Challenge is not to fall into the cliches of melodrama, with someone throwing his forearm on his forehead and big eyes.
Director Leslie Koenig doesn't want Tosca to be about a scary woman with a knife, but rather about people dealing with real emotions.
I want all my pieces to be filled with a kind of wondrous humanity and no cliches.
But that humanity can be on a larger-than-life scale, so that the villainous Scarpia can enter like Darth Vader and provide a character you love to hate. But scale presents a different kind of challenge for production carpenter and technical director John David Peters.
Tosca is one of those very challenging operas because you have to have a really big, elegant set for the first act, and then you get into the second act and you have a murder on stage where one principal artist stabs the other, so you have to make sure that that trick doesn't go awry.
And even if we rehearse with that, something can go wrong and you can maybe do something, and you must be careful not to kill somebody real.
Okay, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about who dies, but this opera's been around for more than a century, so revealing what happens is a bit like telling you that Romeo and Juliet die at the end of Shakespeare's play. Figuring prominently in the multiple deaths of this opera is Tosca herself.
She's a very passionate woman. In a few moments, she loses everything. She loses the man she loves, she kills somebody, and she kills herself.
The suicide's easy. You just get them up there and throw them off.
Koenig has directed Tosca before, and the famous leap to death hasn't always been easy. In her previous production, the soprano wouldn't jump.
She was supposed to jump, and her last line is Scarpia avanti addio. And instead of jumping, she hiked up her skirts and walked off stage left. And the audience went into an uproar. It was so hilarious. I did cry a little bit.
But soprano Alexia Vulgaridou has no such hesitations.
You must do it really with a jump. You cannot be there and, you must do it with impulse so that it can be true and that the public, they stay with like that.
She's one of the least timid Toscas that we've ever had.
It takes courage to do it, but it works fantastic.
We have to come up with a jump pad for her to leap into, and we have to gain the confidence of the singer to get her to believe that we have an appropriate jump pad and that we won't not be there when she makes the leap.
First of all, you must trust very much the crew and all the preparation because it's not something banal that you do every day.
I can generally get the singers to go along with the jump by setting it just a little bit lower than they really want to have it. And then I say, would you like me to bring it up a little bit? And I bring it up a little bit. Oh, I like that.
They are prepared if I fall a little bit on the side to catch me, so I feel quite safe.
I catch her eyes, I let her know that we're right there, so that when she jumps into that pad, she knows that we're right there to help her.
Koenig says Tosca is a good starter opera because the narrative is direct and the emotions are clear and vivid.
I really think this is one of the pieces that's so compact. There's not a lot of subplots going on. There's a little political stuff, intrigue going on underneath. But it's a piece I really think that you could come and see it without surtitles and you'd understand absolutely what was going on the whole time.
All it requires is a leap of faith. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
San Diego Opera's Tosca will be broadcast on KPBS Radio on Saturday, February 20th at 8 p.m. The biggest names in the music industry, including some talented artists from San Diego, are taking the stage in LA tonight for the 58th Grammy Awards. Rising star Andra Day makes her Grammy debut. She's nominated for 2 Grammys, Best Album and Best R&B Performance. Day attended the School of Creative and Performing Arts here in San Diego.
Hi, I'm Nathan East.
Hitting this stage will be San Diego bass guitarist Nathan East. He will be part of a tribute to singer-songwriter Lionel Richie. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.